Hi guys, Sullivan here in Philadelphia. So it is the day after Earth Day, and I thought we could do a garden tour to see how things are looking, see what needs to be changed. This is a great way for me to keep track of some of the goals and projects for the season. And also a lot of things look really pretty. We haven't had a whole lot of rain this April, none of those April showers that you hear so much about. But we did finally get about 3/4 of an inch of rain last night, and things do look happier. Unfortunately, a few of the peonies had already bloomed, and the rain is not so great for peony blooms since they're so big and they hold a lot of water. But I thought we could walk around. Things just look really pretty. So let's take a look around. So not much is happening up here. The lilac was very, very beautiful. It's faded a bit, but this is Miss Kim. I guess it's about 4 years old. And then I lost a big lilac here last year and put in this new one. If I remember correctly, Miss Kim didn't bloom the first year it was in the ground, even though it was blooming at the nursery when I bought it. So I saw a few teeny little buds on this is President Gravy. And then I have Beauty of Moscow over on the other side. Planters up here, they were just kind of in the way. Our fridge broke. We had to get another one. So the planters got moved out of the way. And these things self-sowed from last winter's planters. This area I think is looking really, really beautiful. If you are new here, this is a garden I started working on in October 21. Yes. And a lot of what I planted was small starter plugs or bare root things or tiny shrubs. And then at the end of October 22, I relocated this maple from that divot and added this tiger rose Japanese maple, and I'm really happy with how they're looking. They're not showing a ton of color yet, but the weather has been a little odd, but everything is filling in nicely up here, and it's a little breezy, and the weed pressure in here has not been so bad, but the Star of Bethlehem did take off this week. So, pretty simple here. I still have not gotten the irrigation hooked up on this side of the house. But I'm happy to see that both my Nuka cypress, spruce, and this is a Centennial Blush magnolia that didn't look very blush this year. But I've lost trees every time I've planted here, but these have now made it through a year and a half. I think we're gonna make it. And then I remember planting this peony. I think that might be leftover roots from something else, so there's no blooms on it, so we'll see. But these are probably all a little too close together. So I just cut, I had an apple blossom clematis on the fence there, and it looked pretty terrible. I cut it back hard. I don't even know if it's still alive. It didn't look totally dead when I was cutting from it, but it did not have any growth. That is a zone 7 plant. I am zone 7, but we did have a fairly mild winter, followed by with some very, 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 very cold days in there. So who knows? Looks like some of the iris in here are getting ready to bloom. A lot of the penstemon, verbascum, things like that. I just let them self-sow in here. September anemones. I did no bulb planting up here. So this is Narcissus that I don't know that I managed to get any footage of it, but it's called Prosecco. And it looks like the peonies up here are fairly happy. I think this one's called Bottle of Bliss. I really love it. It has a ton of interesting colors in there. It's an intermediate. It's definitely an early bloomer. And it has formed a nice clump. Everything in this bed is sort of cream, blue, beige, green. Blue is just starting, and the only thing that's looking a little, there's Sun King Aralia planted around the tree. It's kind of the last thing to come up, and it tends to make things look like a bit of a void there. This bed is in a bit of a transition. I did replant a few things. Ito peonies, a lindera spice bush, and then some more blue to greeny toned iris. But you can see it's looking pretty empty in here. That's because the concept for this bed was very much in the vein of the outside of the fence gardens with like a lot of grasses, but it really is part shade with only this area here getting enough sun to grow these things. So we're gonna have to revisit what gets planted here. But it does look like I planted this little twiggy mahonia, and it did flower, and it looks like it's got 3 whole berries on it. And then that is a pretty. If you're new here, I love bearded iris. My husband hates them, but fortunately I don't think he watches my YouTube channel, so he'll never know that there's 350 of them now. This epimedium's been here a little while. It's one of my favorite shade to part shade plants. I have a golden yellow. Oh look, lily of the valley. Sometimes I forget what's planted in here because this has been worked on for so long that there's things planted on top of each other. This is kind of a golden yellow. I have a pink one in another place, and I think I'm adding one more that's on order. These Hellebores were all from plugs from Pine Knot Farms. It might be time to thin some of them out. another part shade to full sun kind of area. That's Captain Kate. That's Rosy White Clouds, which probably needs a new home. Looks like it's probably not getting enough water and nutrients next to the tree. Looks like it's going to be a very pretty year for tree peonies, which is great. They are one of those long-term reward. Any bulbs you see, unless I say so, have been planted in place years ago. These are from 4 years ago. The snowdrops come back. A few of these tulips pop up every year, and I just kind of leave them. This tree peony is Black Panther. I hope. I've never seen it bloom, and it was damaged a few years ago when we got our house painted, but that looks pretty dark in there, so we'll see. I'm looking forward to that. So with the exception of the rain we got last night, it has been very, very dry. I have not hooked the irrigation up, but I think I'm going to have to, just because everything is showing some signs of stress from not getting their April showers. It does look like it's going to be a lovely blueberry harvest. And I should say, I tried to have Chewy join us for the tour. We're harness training her, but all she wants to do is chase bugs. And so it would take us about 6 years to get around the garden. I think it's time to finally call it on that rose. It's looked like that for 4 years. So we're working on edging, grass, all kinds of things. I have some very, very beautiful plants in this side of the island. I can't quite remember what the name of that rose is that's flopped over, but I think I have a plan for emphasizing its height and making it more of a feature that doesn't flop over and try to kill the fothergilla plant. These Itos are fairly old at this point, 5 years now. They'll be pretty in a few more weeks. This is a tree that's been in place for 2 seasons. So I can show you, I have a few that are much older. Tree peonies can be kind of hard to find full-grown images of, and I only have one that I would consider mature. The flopped over brownie tulips came back from last year. But you can see on this side that rose is quite large. It's going to need to be thinned out and cleaned up so that the things around it can survive. And I haven't gotten around to working on these are some David Austins I planted bare root. They got kind of swallowed by some hyacinth bean vine that self-sowed here. I'm going to try to not let that happen this year. On this side of the island, I would say there's a fair amount of room to try to mirror some of what's working over here. I am not a huge fan of symmetry, but I do try to find balance And I think that this could use some interest besides these great clumps of bearded iris and some grass and heuchera. I have struggled. This area is a little soggy. Things run downhill. So water runs downhill. If I plant dahlias here, they usually rot. So, yeah, it's kind of a tougher area. But I would like to work on that side. Feels more like it's got a garden room happening to it. This feels very open, so could use some more plants. So here is my oldest tree peony. It was unlabeled, and I would say it has about 15 to 20 blooms on it. It smells amazing. I think using the photos on the database of garden.org, which is actually where I learned a lot about my peonies, I think it's called Hana Kasoi. But like I said, when I bought it, it was not labeled. And it's just, yeah, it's covered in blooms. I tend to not support things unless they really, 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 really need it. Just because I'm like a let it kind of be gardener. I have so many things going on always. I'm not so great about coming back and staking things or gauging things. So, and then this, just to see the difference, this is an Ito peony, Cora Louise. They look like they're pretty close together, but they're like 2 feet apart. But that's kind of how I like things growing. And then this past fall, I added a bunch of new herbaceous peonies because I have a lot of tree. I have a fair amount of intersectional or Ito, but I felt like I could use more interesting herbaceous so that I could try to get like a full 8-week season. So this was a tulip mix from Eden Brothers that I actually quite liked. One of my goals from last year for this whole area, sorry, the mint is swamping some things. And you're just kind of peeling it back like a carpet. And then it looks like I planted Queen of the Night. And this dark red one, I couldn't tell you. Maybe that was part of about 2 mixes. And my goal, especially for this area, was to add a little more contrast and a little more drama using the darker tulips. Because everything here is kind of like a brick to rose with a little bit of like peach tones. And everything here was this very like uniform lavender color. And it looks like one of the peonies bloomed. So this did get rained on, but that's a pretty one. What's that guy called? That is Lavender Grace. So that's lavender grace. And that's been here a few years. It's got a good amount of blooms on it, which means this other one must be Anna Marie. It's the other lavender that I can think of. So you can think of the medium to pale purple as 2-year-old bulbs, and the darker ones were planted just last fall. So that iris might need a new home. It's kind of throwing off the color story. So you can see we started to edge the new outline of the bed, and in a week or two this will get sheet mulched, and eventually everything will have to slide out a bit. But I don't really want to change the palette. It just gives me an opportunity to move things around a bit and add more. Oh, there it is. I spotted the first ranunculus bloom. And it looks like, even though my trees were no longer labeled, I managed to guess right and planted the purple ones with the purple stuff, which means all the coral and golden ones went this way, which is pretty cool since I lost the labels. Everything in here was planted for the most part last fall. I also have a fair amount of bare root plants going in here, and again, sheet mulching, working on just kind of getting some stuff in here. So my process so far for adding new areas seems to be finding first the color story, choosing a few pretty special plants, generally a peony or some roses, backing that up with a series of, kind of seasonal interests, so bearded iris, tulips, dahlias, the roses. I try to choose reblooming ones. And then that first year tends to be pretty bare looking, so I rely on things like the annual, what I almost consider tulips an annual, though I have had good luck with mine coming back, while I sort of see how things grow and decide what trees and shrubs kind of need to support. And so, and then I'm growing a lot of bare root plants for this part of the border. So all the peonies are very immature here, but I got some really, really good roots. My 2 orders from last fall came from Solaris, which is basically my favorite place to get special peonies from. They send amazing roots. And then I did my first order from Peony Shop, which is in the EU. And they also have really performed well, though I don't love that word, perform. But the plants are doing very well this year. And so sometimes what happens is the first spring you see blooms, the second spring no blooms, third spring you can start to reliably see blooms. So this is Sunny Girl, that's and Herbaceous that's covered in buds. So looking forward to that. And then some tree back here, 2 magnolias that I'm going to try to keep in shrub form. Definitely have some roses added in here. I planted some bare root roses kind of between tulips, as same with the ranunculus. I've got a lot of oriental poppy going in here. You can see that's don't know if those will flower this year, but they are putting up nice foliage. And then I should say none of these tulips are particularly right. I did plant a copper image, so those do look correct, but this bright orangey one was probably supposed to be Belle Epoque, and it's not. And then it looks like that's very faded Foxy Foxtrot down there, which was also mixed with these. So, you know, but I'm happy with how they look. They're very cheerful. This is really the color story, but there's nothing else blooming in here, so why pull out these? They look great. So they were so cheerful a week ago. We had really hot weather and then the rain. So they're at the end, but it looks like everything else is coming along. The iris in these beds are awaiting identification. They were in storage. I didn't get to plant them in their beds, so I'm just kind of letting them bloom, and then I'll move them. There is pink champagne epimedium, so it's fairly shady back in here, and then sunny. This is the first year for all of these plants. Looks like a few things didn't make it, but most is coming back. So it will be nice to see how this develops. Definitely a lot of stuff to get planted. Lots and lots and lots of stuff to plant and unpack. I have a wedding in a few weeks, so I was storing. I just went and picked up a delivery of vases. Planters are looking nice. You know, a few of the planters were filled with fritillaria that doesn't look like it made it through the winter. But these are some alliums that I know I mixed in. So even though there was no Belle Epoque really this year in any of the bulbs that I was expecting, I'm still happy with the assortment. This is where I wish there was smell-o-vision. Oh, there's one of the, I think it's Hanukkah soy that I cut before it rained. And then these are Captain Kate. They smell amazing. guys, thank you so much for watching and walking around my garden with me. It is gratifying to see so much stuff coming back and to see so many bulbs repeat because I have so much space to fill up. I can really only concentrate on planting bulbs in one big area, as evidenced by the potager border. But yeah, there's a lot to look forward to. I'm really, really happy with how much is coming back and coming back in. I don't see too much that needs replacing. And obviously we're expanding the borders, which gives me a lot of opportunity to both spread things out and continue to work on. My big thing that I've been trying to make happen is create divisions using plants to create more garden rooms because my space is so wide open. It's very hard to make the spaces feel intimate, which is why I do think that they need to kind of flow, but I also want to see things get kind of like made to feel a little more cozy now that I'm gonna have these bigger borders. But for the most part, I wanted to do this because the next few weeks I am very busy getting ready for my wedding for my clients, and also because I know I'm going to have so much stuff to choose from in terms of making floral arrangements, which I am going to continue to try to film at least once a week. There's just so much pretty stuff. It's hard to choose. I'd like to make something with that bottle of Bliss iris, but I'm having a hard time seeing, like, really what I should be making is something with all these gorgeous dark tulips, but I just think that iris is so interesting. So stay tuned. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to support the channel, the best way to do that is by watching another video and sharing it with a flower-loving friend. And I will see you guys soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.